Chapter 48:21. According to Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment, although the divine cloud secret realm was not small, she had walked for so many days. Logically speaking, she should have met other cultivators by now. As she walked, a strange look suddenly flashed across Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. "Master, have you discovered something?" Noticing the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Baisher could not help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile as she said, "I smell the fragrance of medicinal herbs." As soon as she said this, Baisher and Xiaohei's eyes lit up. All this while, their goal had been to find spiritual herbs. They had thought that they would not be able to find any in a short period of time. They did not expect to suddenly discover spiritual herbs. Even though they had not seen it with their own eyes, they believed in Bailey Hongzhuang's judgment. As an alchemist, Bailey Hongzhuang was very familiar with the smell of spiritual herbs. She would definitely not make a mistake. "Then let's go quickly," Xiaohei hurriedly said. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang also increased her speed and rushed towards the location of the spiritual herbs. When Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks, her face was full of shock. "Oh my God, am I seeing things?" Xiaohei was also dumbfounded when she saw everything in front of her. Baisher shook his head. "Since the three of us have seen it, then you're not seeing things." In their line of sight there was a huge medicinal field. There were many spiritual herbs growing in it and the rich vitality was extremely shocking. "Master, what grade of spiritual herbs are these?" Baisher turned his head and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously, when they were in the outside world, they had heard that there were many spiritual herbs here. However, they did not know if they were top-grade spiritual herbs. Most of them are 7th and 8th grade spiritual herbs. There are also a few 9th grade spiritual herbs. Her ink-black almond-shaped eyes flashed with astonishment. This huge field of spiritual herbs was simply too shocking. After all, spiritual herbs of this grade were extremely valuable. Previously, in order to become a level 8 alchemist, she had taken a lot of 8th grade spiritual herbs from the D family. Just those spiritual grasses alone were already very rare, but compared to this medicinal field in front of him, how could they be considered as anything? "Let's move quickly." After recovering from her shock, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately reacted. No one knew when the other cultivators would appear, so they had to take these spiritual herbs for themselves as soon as possible. Yes. Xiaohei and Baisher immediately returned to their senses as well. These were all treasures, cultivation resources. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly walked into the medicinal field. The method she took was far more terrible than others because she directly moved the entire medicinal field into her primordial chaos ring. On that empty space's eyes. Were eyes to her to Hongzhuang to move her Hongzhuang's palace. She also Bailey Hongzhuang's. Moving this medicinal field into her chaos ring was the most appropriate thing to do. Most importantly, this was the fastest way. However, the empty space behind the chaos ring was not as big as the medicinal field in front of her. Hence, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately rushed to the medicinal field where the 9th grade spiritual herbs were growing. There were even 10th grade spiritual herbs among them. With a single thought, she moved the entire medicinal field into her chaos ring. Xiaohei and Baisher, who were busy picking spiritual herbs, could not help but gape when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Their master was indeed their master. Her actions were truly domineering. Chapter 48:22. "Master, should we call the white dragon out for help?" Xiaohei's hands did not stop moving as she suggested this. With so many high-grade herbs, even if they were to pick them as fast as they could, it would not be something that could be done in a short period of time. Most importantly, other cultivators might appear at any time during this process. The thought of these treasures possibly falling into someone else's hands made its heart ache a little. One should know that even one stalk of these spiritual herbs would cost an exorbitant price outside. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment but still shook her head and said, "The white dragon is not interested in such matters. Let her cultivate in peace." Although there were many cultivators who had come to participate in the immortal cloud mystic realm this time, most of them knew each other. If a stranger suddenly appeared, others would definitely notice it at the first moment. That would not be a good thing. It was very likely that it would involve the chaos ring. If the white dragon were to step in when they were in danger, that would be something that could not be helped. Hearing this, Xiaohei nodded, "All right." However, after saying this, Xiaohei's hands moved even faster. Only the spiritual herbs in her hands would belong to her. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly picked the spiritual herbs. In a short period of time, the woman and the two beasts looked like bandits as not even a single blade of grass was left. After putting all the spiritual herbs that they had picked into the chaos ring, Bailey Hongzhuang even held a portion of the spiritual herbs in her hand to confuse any cultivators who might appear later on. Master, our luck seems to be pretty good. Until now, no other cultivators have appeared. Xiao Hei took a moment to raise her head. She suddenly felt that farming was really tough. However, her heart was only filled with excitement as she picked the spiritual herbs. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and nodded, "That's true." Just based on her current harvest, she felt that this trip had not been made in vain. Actually, we haven't ventured too deep into the mystic realm and we've already come across such a medicinal field. I wonder what kind of treasures we'll find when we go deeper. Baisher's eyes flickered with a sigh. No wonder so many cultivators are vying for a slot to enter the immortal cloud secret realm. Now, I feel that the previous auction price was too low. Previously, a small portion of the D family's identity cards were auctioned off at the auction house. When they first heard the price, they were all shocked. That was because the price was simply too high. However, they had only been in the immortal cloud mystic realm for a short period of time and they had already gained so much. Instantly, White Lion felt that the previous price was not considered high at all. That's right, we've really struck it rich. Xiao Hei's face was filled with excitement. Not only was she a foodie, she was also a money grubber. Bailey Hongzhuang found it rather funny when she saw how excited Xiao Hei and Baisher were. She said, "Actually, it could be that we're just lucky. Not all cultivators would have such a harvest. However, if everyone is able to obtain such rewards, then this immortal cloud mystic realm is truly a treasure trove." Just as the woman and the two beasts were busy picking the herbs, another two figures arrived at the medicinal field. Su Yaqing's eyes shone brightly when she saw the high-grade spiritual herbs in front of her. She could not hide the joy on her face. Chapter 48-23. Su Minglei, who was standing at the side, sighed. "We have walked for so long without any harvest. I thought we were unlucky. I didn't expect that we would come across such a large field of herbs. These herbs are all very valuable. Previously, I heard that the divine cloud mystery realm is very suitable for the growth of spiritual herbs. I was still a little doubtful. Now that I see it, these spiritual herbs are really too shocking. Such a large field of spiritual herbs, I can't believe it." Su Yaqing looked at Su Minglei happily. "Big brother, let's not waste any more time. Let's hurry up and harvest. If other cultivators come, it will be troublesome." "All right." Su Minglei nodded without hesitation. He hated that he didn't have 3 heads and 6 arms and couldn't harvest fast enough. However, just as the two of them were harvesting, they suddenly felt an unfamiliar aura in front of them. The two of them immediately raised their heads and looked at each other with a serious expression. "There's someone in front," Su Minglei said in a low voice. "Let's go and take a look." Su Yaqing had a complicated expression. Looking at the situation, the other party might have come earlier than them. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was immersed in harvesting the herbs, also felt the two auras approaching rapidly. She immediately put the spiritual herbs into her chaos ring, leaving only a few spiritual herbs in her hands. Soon the three of them came face to face. "It's Bailey Hongzhuang from the D family." Su Yaqing recognized Bailey Hongzhuang at first glance. In fact, in this divine cloud mystery realm incident, Bailey Hongzhuang was undoubtedly the most eye-catching person. Previously, in the pill refining competition, Bailey Hongzhuang's limelight was already unshakable. In addition to the incident with Ao Lingxiao, almost everyone knew who Bailey Hongzhuang was. Most importantly, no one would forget such a beauty after seeing her for the first time. Knowing that she was from the D family, Su Yaqing and Su Minglei's expressions turned serious. However, after noticing that Bailey Hongzhuang was alone, the two of them secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining skills were very powerful, it was obvious that her cultivation level wasn't high. The siblings didn't need to fear her. Just as Su Yaqing and Su Minglei were sizing Bailey Hongzhuang up, Bailey Hongzhuang was also sizing them up. These two seemed to be from the Su family. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows raised. She had noticed it before when Di Xiaofeng was explaining the situation. Therefore, when she thought about it now, her tone was a little uncertain. The atmosphere instantly froze. The three of them stood face to face, their gazes colliding with each other. Undercurrents surged. A moment later, Su Minglei's voice rang out. "Lady Bailey." After feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's soft voice, Su Minglei's face also had a smile. He cupped his hands and smiled. "Miss Bailey, I've heard a lot about you. Since we're able to come to this herb field together, it can be considered fate. Why don't we pick our own and not disturb each other?" Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. That's great. I have the same idea. Su Minglei and Su Yaqing looked at each other and smiled. Then we won't disturb Lady Bailey any longer. With that, the two of them backed off and started to pick the spiritual herbs from below. Chapter 48-24. In contrast to Xiao Hei's relaxed demeanor, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, but the wariness in her eyes did not dissipate. We still can't be sure if what they've said is true or false. Perhaps it's just a temporary measure. Her pitch-black phoenix-like eyes flickered with a bright and wise light. There are still so many spiritual herbs here. If they were to fight with me now, not only would they destroy the spiritual herbs here, they might even attract other cultivators here. This is not beneficial to them at all. Xiao Hei was shocked. Master, what do you mean? We're only safe for now. Even if they don't make a move now, it doesn't mean that they won't make a move later on. Once we've finished harvesting all the spiritual herbs here, it'll be time for them to make a move. Then what should we do? Xiao Hei frowned. She never thought that this matter would be so troublesome. Initially, everything in the herb farm belonged to them. Now that two people had suddenly appeared, a battle might break out later on. Master, I remember that these two people are the more outstanding members of the Su family team. I'm sure that they're not weak either. Baisher reminded her. As a demonic beast, Baisher's physical strength was extremely powerful. Hence, he had not stayed on the deck during the journey to the Divine Cloud Secret Realm. Instead, he had stayed below the deck. During that period of time, Baisher had learned a lot about the situation. If we were to make a move, what do you think our chances of winning are? Bailey Hongzhuang asked after some thought. I'm not sure. Baisher's expression showed some hesitation. They've never made a move in the flying artifact, so I can't determine their exact level of power. However, if we were to really meet them, we'll still have the power to protect ourselves. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Then we'll talk about this later. Let's harvest the spiritual herbs first. Following the appearance of Su Yaqing and Baisher, Bailey Hongzhuang and her two demonic beasts began to pick up the spiritual herbs even faster. Both parties were snatching the spiritual herbs as fast as they could. After all, every spiritual herb was extremely valuable once they left the secret realm. To a money grubber like Xiao Hei, it was as if it had been injected with chicken blood. It did not even raise its head as it frantically plucked the fruits. Su Yaqing was originally quite calm. After all, she and Su Minglei were two people, while Bailey Hongzhuang was only one person. In terms of picking speed, Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely no match for them. However, after picking for a while, she looked up and found that Bailey Hongzhuang's two contracted beasts' picking speed was even faster than the two of them combined. Big brother, what kind of contract beast does Bailey Hongzhuang have? How can you pick the herbs so quickly? Su Yaqing was not calm and her voice was full of anxiety. Hearing this, Su Minglei raised his head. Sure enough, with one look, he discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang and the two demonic beasts were as fast as the wind. Compared to them, the speed of the siblings was indeed not enough. I don't know. Based on their speed in the same amount of time, they're picking the herbs much faster than us. I'll release my contract beast too. Su Yaqing immediately released her contract beast. You hurry up and pluck the herbs too. Su Yaqing's contract beast was a fire cloud fox. When it was released, it thought that it would be participating in a battle. Instantly, its face was filled with fighting spirit as it waited for a great battle. However, when it heard its master's words, it could not help but be stunned. Chapter 48-25. What are you chirping about? Su Yaqing slapped the fire cloud fox's head. I'm asking you to pick the herbs quickly. The fire cloud fox stared blankly at Su Yaqing. When it realized that it had not heard wrongly, it looked at its claws and then at the spirit herbs in front of it. Without further delay, it began to pick the herbs. Su Yaqing picked the spirit herbs while paying attention to the fire cloud fox beside her. From her point of view, they were now 3-3 with Bailey Hongzhuang. Their speed should be the same. However, when she saw her fire cloud fox picking the spirit herbs as if it was pulling carrots, and then looked at the other party's nimble contract beast, the flames of anger in her eyes burned. The fire cloud fox was happily digging the mud when suddenly, another slap landed on its head. Chirp. The fire cloud fox looked at Su Yaqing in confusion. It was already picking the spirit herbs, why was she still hitting it? Why don't you take a look at your own speed? Su Yaqing's face was full of disdain. The others are also contract beasts and so are you. Why is your speed so much slower than other contract beasts? Hearing that, the fire cloud fox looked at Xiao Hei and Baisher who were not too far away. It was dumbfounded. Why were the claws of these two fellows so nimble? Are you contract beasts who specialize in picking spirit herbs? Slap. Another slap landed on the fire cloud fox's head. What are you looking at? Hurry up and pick them. Su Yaqing could not help but think. She had always heard that the cultivators in the lower realm were not powerful enough. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had appeared, their views had changed. Now she realized that the demonic beasts in the lower realm were also very powerful. At least, the nimbleness of these two claws was amazing. The fire cloud fox reached out and touched its head. It glared angrily at Xiao He and Bai Shi and continued to pick the spirit herbs with an aggrieved expression. It was only a demonic beast. It could eat the spirit herbs directly. Why did they make it do such a thing? Xiao He and Bai Shi suddenly felt a gaze filled with resentment. They raised their heads and looked into the distance. Only then did they notice the fire cloud fox opposite them. I didn't expect that fire cloud raccoon to know how to pick spirit herbs. Xiao He was surprised. Then we have to speed up. Originally they had the upper hand. Now that the other side had an additional helper, they could not fall behind just like that. If the fire cloud fox knew what Xiao He and Bai Shi were thinking, it would definitely regret looking at them like that. Although Su Yaqing wholeheartedly wanted to surpass Bailey Hongzhuang and her two contracted beasts, the final reality told her that it was impossible. Finally, there weren't many medicinal herbs left in the medicinal field, and the distance between the two parties was getting closer and closer. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped what she was doing and looked at the two people before she said, "Young Master Su, young Miss Su, I'll take my leave first." She was not a greedy person. The amount of spirit herbs she had collected this time was enough for her. After meeting the two members of the Su family, she felt that she might encounter other cultivators at any time. Therefore, it was undoubtedly best to maintain her best condition. Most importantly, even if a conflict were to break out, it would be best not to stay in the medicinal field. Otherwise, it would be easy for others to guess what she had on her. Chapter 48-26. Just as she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang did not stay any longer. She took large strides forward and quickly left. Based on the situation that she had noticed, there seemed to be someone approaching from not too far away. Even though she did not know whether the other party was a friend or foe, it was undoubtedly the best choice to leave and observe before the other party arrives. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and took a few steps, a sneak attack came stealthily towards her. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flashed and turned into a ray of white light, disappearing from the spot and evading the other party's attack. Stopping in her tracks, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Su Minglei who had attacked her. Her contrasting black and white eyes were filled with a sense of gloominess. "Sir Su, you don't seem to want me to leave?" Her clear and cold voice was filled with chilliness. If she had not been on guard against Su Minglei, the other party's attack would have been calculated perfectly. Once she was hit by this attack, she would definitely be injured. Su Minglei clearly did not expect his attack to miss. He had calculated the time and angle. Logically speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang should not have been able to evade it. The only possibility was that Bailey Hongzhuang had been on guard against them all this while. It was because of this that she was able to react at the first instance. After understanding this point, Su Minglei's gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang changed slightly. He had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was only good at pill refinement. He never thought that the other party's vigilance would be so strong. Previously, the clan elder had told him not to underestimate cultivators from the lower realm. This was because they had come from one place to another. The training and cruelty they had endured was fundamentally different from theirs. He had not understood it at first, but after witnessing this scene, he suddenly understood. From the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang had never trusted them and had always been prepared to defend herself. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Su Minglei did not feel awkward at all. After all, he had been prepared the moment he had decided to make his move. It would be best if he could kill him in one blow. Otherwise, he would have to force him to hand over the spiritual grass. According to his judgment, when they arrived, Bailey Hongzhuang had already picked all the most precious spiritual herbs. Although he did not know what kind of spiritual herb it was, he was sure that it was extremely valuable. "Hand over your storage ring and we'll let you go." Su Yaqing's gaze locked onto Bailey Hongzhuang. The two of them had arrived late, so Bailey Hongzhuang's harvest was definitely much more than theirs. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "Just now, the two of you have already broken your promise and now you say such things again. Do you think I will believe it? You don't have a choice." Su Yaqing's eyes were cold. "If you don't hand over the storage ring, we won't let you leave. If you hand over the pill formula for the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill, I won't take your spiritual grass." Su Minglei said. Although the spiritual grass was very valuable, as long as they had the pill formula for the 8 revolutions Bodhi pill, their value would truly be limitless. So that's your goal. A disdainful smile flashed across Bailey Hongzhuang's deep, bottomless eyes. Her expression suddenly turned fierce. Then we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. As soon as she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang's aura exploded. She had not wanted to fight them, but now that things had come to this, a fight was unavoidable. Chapter 48-27. A look of astonishment flashed across the Su siblings' eyes. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would dare to take the initiative to fight them under these circumstances. Most importantly, judging from Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, it was obvious that she was not afraid of them at all. The two of them could not help but look at each other at the thought of this. Could it be that they had made a mistake in their previous judgment? Big brother, the calmness on her face could be an act. Su Yaqing sized up Bailey Hongzhuang as her mind raced. Pretending to be calm was also a method. If they give up because of this, perhaps Bailey Hongzhuang's plan would succeed. Su Minglei nodded. He and Su Yaqing had the same idea. Since they had already made their move, they must obtain the 8 revolutions Bodhi pill. The heavens had given them a chance by allowing them to meet Bailey Hongzhuang at the first opportunity. They could only take advantage of this opportunity to resolve everything unknowingly. Then Su Minglei and Su Yaqing no longer hesitated. The power within their bodies surged out and they charged towards Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. Master, leave Su Minglei to me. Seeing that the other party had made their move, Baisher naturally would not decline. Ever since his cultivation had increased, he had not found anyone to practice with. This fellow had actually dared to set his sights on his master. He would never let him off. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Both of you deal with Su Minglei together. His powers are not to be underestimated. Even though she does not know much about Su Minglei, his powers would not be weak if he was able to become the leader of an aristocratic family's disciple. All right. When Su Minglei saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had charged towards Su Yaqing and left her 2 contracted beasts to deal with him, his eyes flashed with astonishment. He then could not help but chuckle. Indeed, Bailey Hongzhuang's toughness had been an act. She did not dare to fight him and had instead sent her 2 contracted beasts to fight him. It was obvious that these 2 contracted beasts were here to throw their lives away. He only needed a single move to deal with these 2 contracted beasts. A smug look flashed across Su Minglei's eyes. As long as he could control Bailey Hongzhuang, he would be able to obtain the 8 revolutions Bodhi pill and the pill formula of another long-lost pill. At the same time, he would also be able to ask Bailey Hongzhuang how she was able to contract 2 demonic beasts. This point also made him very puzzled. Clearly, every cultivator could only have 1 contract beast, so why was Bailey Hongzhuang able to contract 2? This was too strange. Now, he felt that the cultivators from the lower realm were full of secrets. He had never encountered such a situation before. Bailey Hongzhuang, you sent these 2 contracted beasts to deal with me? Are you trying to send them to their deaths? Su Minglei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a sneer. If that's the case, I advise you to just hand it over and save yourself the trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Su Minglei indifferently. If you want to fight, just do it. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Su Yaqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her and chuckled. It's already come to this point. Why are you still putting up a strong front? With your strength, I don't even need to think to know that you are no match for us. Those who died in my hands before also thought so. Chapter 48-28. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's lack of fear, Su Yaqing's heart was filled with suspicion. She had originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had only done that to scare them. Once she succeeded, she would be able to escape. However, Bailey Hongzhuang could no longer escape. Yet, she still maintained her previous confidence. This was a little strange. Since you're so insistent, I can only grant you your wish. Su Yaqing's gaze turned cold. She did not believe that her powers were inferior to an alchemist from the lower realm. If that was the case, it would be too laughable. When Xiao He and Baisher saw that Su Minglei did not place them in his eyes, they were not displeased. Su Minglei had underestimated them and was at a disadvantage. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger was something they were very good at. Su Minglei looked lazily at the 2 contracted beasts in front of him and reached out to call the fiery cloud fox over. Wasn't it a joke to let him deal with 2 contracted beasts? Fiery cloud fox, I'll give you a chance to train. The fiery cloud fox stood next to Su Minglei. When it saw Baisher clearly, its fur instantly stood up. Go. Su Minglei looked at the fiery cloud fox and said. The fiery cloud fox stared speechlessly at Su Minglei. Was this fellow mistaken? He was actually asking it to deal with a beast king? Don't you know about the hierarchy among monstrous beasts? Based on the difference in their levels, it was impossible for it to win against a beast king. Su Minglei saw that the fiery cloud fox was only staring at him blankly and had no intention of attacking. He frowned. You don't dare to attack? The fiery cloud fox nodded. What a joke. This was completely asking for a beating, all right? Seeing this, Su Minglei was secretly astonished. Su Yaqing's fiery cloud fox was rather powerful. Usually, when there were monstrous beasts around, the fiery cloud fox would be responsible for dealing with them. Now it was behaving so strangely. Su Minglei did not force it. He waved the long staff in his hand and attacked Bai Shi. Just as he attacked, Bai Shi's figure flashed and dodged the long staff. His white and red body transformed into a beam of light and shot towards Su Minglei at lightning speed. The sudden attack and speed stunned Su Minglei. The fire cloud fox was also a Yao beast that excelled in speed. Unexpectedly, this Yao beast was even faster than the fire cloud fox. Shwa! In the blink of an eye, a claw mark appeared on Su Minglei's face. Feeling the pain on his face, Su Minglei's face became very ugly. He never thought that he would be attacked by a contract beast. Although the scars on his face were nothing, it was still too embarrassing. However, White Lion was not satisfied with his attack. If Su Minglei had not reacted so quickly, that attack would have been enough to severely injure him. Xiao Hei's movements were also very fast. While the White Lion was moving, she took the opportunity to appear behind Su Minglei. Su Minglei's figure had just stopped, and he was still immersed in the gloominess of being attacked by the White Lion. His foot, which contained the power of light, kicked out fiercely. Bang! Su Minglei did not notice that Xiao Hei had run up behind him. Most importantly, from his point of view, a little fellow like Xiao Hei would only be able to launch sneak attacks. Her strength was not that great. However, his judgment was wrong once again. Chapter 48-29. Just as he was about to make a move, Xiao Hei's figure grew larger and he mercilessly kicked over. However, after the kick, Xiao Hei instantly shrunk its body again. The fire cloud fox at the side also widened its eyes when it saw Xiao Hei's ability to change its body size. Although some demonic beasts could also change their body size, the difference in Xiao Hei's size was too terrifying. At the very least, it never knew that a demonic beast could change its body size so drastically. When Su Minglei turned around and saw the shrunken Xiao Hei, he was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He couldn't understand how a contracted beast with such a small body could have such terrifying strength. First, he underestimated Bai Shi. Now he underestimated Xiao Hei. This was simply asking for his life. I've underestimated both of you. Su Minglei looked coldly at the two contracted beasts in front of him. It had only been one exchange, but he was already injured. This was completely beyond his expectations. We're not the only ones you've underestimated, Bai Shi said coldly. Hearing Bai Shi's words, Su Minglei's eyes widened. His face was filled with astonishment. You can actually speak human language? What's wrong with being able to speak human language? You're making a fuss over nothing. Xiao Hei looked mockingly at Su Minglei. Its expression was as if it was looking at a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. It was Su Minglei's first time being looked at with such disdain by a contracted beast. However, the situation in front of him made it impossible for him to remain calm. You can actually speak as well? As far as he knew, any contracted beast that could speak human language had already reached the level of transforming into a human. Could it be that the two contracted beasts that he had underestimated had already broken through to the nebula realm? How was this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator from the lower realm. Her contracted beasts were naturally brought up from the lower realm. Chapter 48-30. If she did not cultivate diligently after coming to the upper realm, she would not be able to deal with such strength. However, she was no longer at the same level as when she first came here. Even if they fought, she was not afraid. As soon as Su Yaqin fought, she discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength wasn't any weaker than her own. Shock immediately appeared in her eyes. If her judgment was correct, Bailey Hongzhuang should be younger than her. However, her strength was on par with her. Her potential was terrifying. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang was an alchemist. She suddenly felt that Bailey Hongzhuang and Ouyang Jifeng were both abnormal. Such geniuses could not be judged with common sense. Others could not multitask as it was easy to waste their talent. However, when it came to them, it was not obvious, because multitasking did not affect them at all. You are also a 6-star light realm? Su Yakin could not help but ask. Is there any meaning in talking about this between us? Bailey Hongzhuang asked back. However, her hands did not stop moving. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Su Yakin's expression changed slightly. Bailey Hongzhuang was really eloquent. Her words were irrefutable. Su Yakin subconsciously looked at Su Minglei. If Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was similar to hers, then their fight would not be settled in a short time. However, as long as Su Minglei settled the two contracted beasts, then her problem would be solved quickly. However, in the blink of an eye, she discovered that there were wounds on Su Minglei's face. Her eyes were immediately filled with shock. Her elder brother was injured by two contracted beasts? How was this possible? Her elder brother was only a step away from breaking through to the Nebula Realm. According to their judgment, Su Minglei could definitely break through to the Nebula Realm in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. However, Su Minglei was injured by two demonic beasts. How strong were the two contracted beasts? At first, Su Yakin only thought that she had seen wrongly. However, when she took a second look and saw that there were indeed scars on Su Minglei's face, she did not know what to say. How could Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast have such strength? An indescribable envy spread in Su Yakin's heart. If she could have such a powerful contracted beast, then her status would skyrocket. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't give her too much time to be shocked. She immediately attacked. Her idea was very simple. She wanted to end the battle quickly. She had already sensed that other cultivators were approaching. She had to end this battle as soon as possible. Otherwise, the situation would become even more troublesome. This was because she was unable to determine whether his appearance would be beneficial or detrimental to her. Under Bailey Hongzhuang's attack, Su Yakin retreated step by step. She simply did not have the strength to take the initiative to attack Bailey Hongzhuang. Instead, she had been passively resisting. In the process of dodging, she was shocked to the extreme. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would have found it hard to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength was actually so strong. Were cultivators from the lower realm really so powerful? Why was the situation so different from what they had imagined? Chapter 48-31. This discovery left her speechless. She couldn't imagine how Bailey Hongzhuang managed to nurture such a powerful contracted beast. Not to mention anything else, just Bailey Hongzhuang alone, with such a contract beast, the average cultivator would not be her opponent. As for the other contracted beast, although it wasn't as powerful as the larger contracted beast, it was also at the Starlight Realm. All of a sudden, she felt that her identity might have been reversed with Bailey Hongzhuang. She was the one who came from the lower realm. At the very least, she couldn't compare to Bailey Hongzhuang. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Su Minglei to deal with these two contracted beasts quickly. On the contrary, he was restrained by the two contracted beasts. This was because he was already injured at the beginning, which affected his strength. Coupled with the fact that this larger contracted beast was not weaker than him, the result was obvious. After understanding Bailey Hongzhuang's true strength, Su Minglei and his sister started to regret their previous decision. If they knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had such strength, they wouldn't have chosen to fight her. They were frustrated. Why didn't Bailey Hongzhuang tell them about these two abnormal contracted beasts? Otherwise, they wouldn't have fallen into such a predicament. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang's attack landed on Su Yakin's chest. Bang bang bang. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stop after the attack. She continued to attack Su Yakin in the same place. Boom! Su Yakin's body flew backward and landed heavily on the ground. Su Yakin spat out a mouthful of blood. She covered her chest with her hand and her face turned pale. She thought that even if Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was similar to hers, she wouldn't be Bailey Hongzhuang's match. However, she later found out that Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength was much stronger than hers. Although she didn't want to admit it, she wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's match at all. In front of Bailey Hongzhuang, she didn't even have the chance to fight back. After Su Minglei noticed Su Yakin's situation, a trace of horror appeared in his eyes. He knew his sister's strength. Her strength was considered good among cultivators of the same age, but she couldn't be compared to those abnormal cultivators. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was stronger than her. From the looks of it, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't just a little stronger. Miss Bailey, let's talk. When Su Minglei saw Bailey Hongzhuang approaching Su Yakin, he hurriedly shouted out. Hearing him, Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Su Minglei indifferently. Bailey Hongzhuang, what is there for us to talk? Bailey Hongzhuang, Su Minglei's TSS. Bailey Hongzhuang's he Bailey Hongzhuang's but Bailey Hongzhuang's he's. Bailey Hongzhuang, Hongzhuang Hongzhuang Hongzhuang, Ti Hongzhuang. No matter what, he couldn't let Su Yakin die in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Hee hee. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed gently and raised her eyebrows. If I was the one who was at a disadvantage, would you show mercy? Silence. Su Minglei didn't know how to answer Bailey Hongzhuang's question. Chapter 48-32. This was because the D family was a colossus. If it were not for the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had so many treasures on her, they would not have taken the risk of offending the D family by attacking her. Hence, once they had made their move, they had to eliminate the source of trouble. They could not give the D family any chance to take revenge. Lady Bailey, everything can be discussed. We will agree to any request you have. Su Minglei said anxiously. Su Yaqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang nervously. She did not want to lose her life here. Lady Bailey, it was all our fault. Please be magnanimous and let us go. We will agree to any request you have. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. My request is very simple. You can just die. She had always been the type of person who would not attack unless she was attacked first. If the other party had not intended to kill her, she would not have wanted to kill them. However, since the other party had wanted to take her life, she would not be kind either. Being merciful was not her style. As soon as she finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang attacked Su Yaqing directly. Su Minglei and Su Yakin's eyes flashed with disbelief when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's decisive reaction. Bailey Hongzhuang had not even listened to their conditions and had directly rejected them. This kind of courage was not something an average person would have. Even if it was them, they would at least listen to everything before making a decision, but Bailey Hongzhuang was so decisive. Stop. Ding. A flying dagger flashed and blocked Bailey Hongzhuang's attack on Su Yakin. Then, a figure appeared in the line of sight of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Su Yakin and Su Minglei were pleasantly surprised when they saw this person appear. Jiechao. Su Jiechao quickly walked to Su Yakin's side and stared coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey, you don't have to be so heartless, do you? As he spoke, Su Jiechao was also sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang. His heart was also filled with surprise. He was very clear about the strength of Su Minglei and Su Yakin. He did not expect that they would be at a disadvantage in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. This was really unbelievable. If he had not appeared just now, Su Yakin would have died in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. She didn't expect the two from the Su family to be so lucky. You're the ones who took the initiative to look for trouble. Now you're putting this heartless name on my head. Aren't you too shameless? Su Jiechao was slightly taken aback. After looking at Su Minglei's expression, he finally reacted. He didn't expect that the first to make a move would be their people. Instantly, his expression became a little awkward. Su Yakin rose to her feet with Su Jiechao's help. Her eyes were icy cold and filled with murderous intent. Why do you care so much about her? Tak. Previously, she and Su Minglei were no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that Su Jiechao has joined the battle, they could defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. Su Minglei's gaze changed as well. Indeed, this was a great opportunity. Master, these fellows are too shameless. The speed at which they change their faces is truly astonishing. Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with disgust as she stared at them. Her reaction would change at the slightest change. Chapter 48-33. Bai Shi appeared to be calmer. It already knew what kind of trash these fellows were. These two contracted beasts can talk? Su Jiechao could not help but be dumbfounded when he heard Bai Shi and Xiao Hei's conversation. His reaction was exactly the same as Su Minglei's. At this moment he finally understood why Su Minglei and Bai Shi were no match for Bailey Hongzhuang. It was because these two contracted beasts were terrifyingly powerful as well. Su Minglei nodded. These two contracted beasts are not to be trifled with. Su Jiechao and Su Minglei were very familiar with each other. Just by looking at Su Minglei's expression, Su Jiechao could guess what had happened. However, none of this was important. He also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had treasures on her. As long as he could obtain these treasures, he would be able to reap considerable benefits. He made his decision without hesitation at the thought of this. Master, what should we do now? Xiao Hei had a complicated look on her face. They were already in an advantageous position. Now that Su Jiechao has arrived, the situation has changed. At most, we'll cripple them all. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were icy cold. She had never been one to be afraid of trouble. Since the other party had come knocking on her door, she naturally would not be afraid. However, before we do that, we have to see if the person behind us is a friend or foe. Hearing this, Xiaohei was shocked. Are there other cultivators? That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. Previously, she had sensed two auras approaching from different directions. In order to prevent the previous incident from happening again, she had to clarify the situation. Su Yaqing clearly did not notice the situation and was about to attack. However, Su Minglei stopped her and stared into the distance with a complicated look in his eyes. Someone else is coming. It seems that I've arrived at the right time. A clear and refreshing voice rang out. Then, a man in a blue robe slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. When she saw the man, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with shock. She was no stranger to this man. It was Ouyang Jifeng. Ouyang Jifeng? Su Minglei and the other two couldn't help but frown when they saw that it was Ouyang Jifeng. They didn't have any relationship with the Ouyang clan. That's right, it's me. Ouyang Jifeng smiled and nodded. This matter has nothing to do with you. Su Minglei said slowly, if you're willing to leave. Before Su Minglei could finish his words, Ouyang Jifeng had already reached out to stop him. You're wrong. This matter is related to me. As he spoke, Ouyang Jifeng stood beside Bailey Hongzhuang under the surprised gazes of Su Minglei and the others. Miss Bailey is my friend. The three of you are ganging up on her. I can't stand it anymore. Ouyang Jifeng smiled and raised his eyebrows at Bailey Hongzhuang. I didn't expect us to be so fated. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Indeed. She didn't expect the person to be Ouyang Jifeng. She thought that she was going to start a massacre. However, now that Ouyang Jifeng was here, she naturally couldn't make the same plans as before. When Su Minglei and the other two heard Ouyang Jifeng's words, their faces turned ugly. They really didn't expect these two to be friends. Chapter 48-34. Ouyang Jifeng, are you really going to interfere in this matter? Su Minglei looked at Ouyang Jifeng with an ugly expression. Originally, they were in an advantageous position and victory was already in their hands. However, once Ouyang Jifeng joined in, the situation would be completely ruined. Most importantly, Ouyang Jifeng was the top genius of the Ouyang clan. It was said that his cultivation had already broken through to the Nebula realm. Once he joined in, Bailey Hongzhuang would gain the greatest advantage. I think I've already expressed myself very clearly. Ouyang Jifeng's expression was calm, and his attitude did not change at all. Seeing this, Su Minglei and the other two looked at each other. It seemed that they had really made a wrong decision. Once Bailey Hongzhuang left, the D clan's disciples would know that they had attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. It would be unavoidable for them to be in trouble. Alright, you win. Let's go. Su Minglei looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and Ouyang Jifeng and made the decision to leave. Hearing this, although Su Yaqing was a little unwilling, she knew that leaving now was the best outcome. Otherwise, once Bailey Hongzhuang and Ouyang Jifeng joined forces, their situation would be really bad. Miss Bailey, do you want to fight? Ouyang Jifeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. If you want to fight, I can help. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. No need. Thank you for today. She and Ouyang Jifeng met at the alchemy competition. Because they were both very good at alchemy, the two of them became friends because of this. However, later on, Ouyang Jifeng was in seclusion, so the two of them did not contact each other. In fact, she was also a little surprised that Ouyang Jifeng would stand on her side. She understood that Ouyang Jifeng was not the least bit unhappy that she had stolen his limelight at the alchemy competition. On the contrary, he was somewhat sympathetic. Miss Bailey is too polite. I think that even if I didn't appear, you wouldn't be afraid. If my appearance has affected you, then I'm sorry. Ouyang Jifeng's eyes glinted with wisdom. Originally, when he noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, he felt that she would be in danger, so he directly appeared. However, when he got closer, he realized that even though Su Minglei and the other two had an obvious advantage, Bailey Hongzhuang did not show the slightest bit of fear. He could tell that she was not putting up a strong front, but was truly not afraid. Therefore, he believed that even if he did not appear, Bailey Hongzhuang would still be safe and sound. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Young Master Ouyang, I'm very grateful that you're willing to help. How can I apologize? I'm relieved that Miss Bailey doesn't blame me, Ouyang Jifeng said with a smile. Ouyang Jifeng's gaze swept across the herb field and he smiled. Looks like Miss Bailey's harvest today is not small. It's all right, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I've obtained some spiritual herbs. Does young Master Ouyang need them? No need. Ouyang Jifeng waved his hand. This immortal cloud mystery realm is a good place for spiritual herbs to grow. There are many other places that have them. These are your harvests, so keep them for yourself. However, you must be careful not to be targeted by others. Most of the people here only look at benefits. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This situation was within her expectations. Everyone was here to fight for resources and no one was a kind person. Situations where people killed each other for resources were common. Chapter 48-35. Nope. Ouyang Jifeng shook his head. I've only met anyone on my way here. I didn't expect this place to be so lively. If you're looking for a member of the D family, you should continue looking further ahead. The deeper you go, the more likely you'll meet them. When we first entered, we were all scattered around the outskirts of the divine cloud mystic realm. Everyone would be closer to the inner regions. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. So that's how it is. Miss Bailey, I'll take my leave first. Since I've entered, I should look for my own opportunities, Ouyang Jifeng said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands. We'll meet again if fate wills it. Take care. With that, Ouyang Jifeng did not stay any longer and left in one direction. Looking at Ouyang Jifeng's departing figure, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curled into a faint smile. Ever since she had gone to Water Praying City, she had met many members of the aristocratic families. Ouyang Jifeng had left the best impression on her. Not only was he exceptionally talented, hardworking, and determined, he also had a broad heart. If it had been anyone else, they would have been unhappy that she had stolen their limelight. However, Ouyang Jifeng had never thought this way. On the contrary, he had placed most of his attention on himself, searching for his own shortcomings. A person like this would definitely achieve great things. Master, I thought that Ouyang Jifeng would travel with you. Baisher's voice slowly rang out. I thought so too. Xiao Hei's face was filled with astonishment. Although I know him, we're not that close. Traveling together rashly is actually a test. Since that's the case, it's better for us to travel separately. Her deep almond-shaped eyes flashed with wisdom. If I'm not wrong, he should know that I have other things to do. With that said, Xiao Hei and Baisher could not help but look at each other, their faces filled with confusion. Master, what do you mean by that? What other things do we have to do? Are you going to let those three guys go just like that? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Of course not. No. Xiao Hei and Baisher did not hesitate to express their stance. If it was an ordinary conflict, it would have been fine. However, Su Minglei and the other two were simply too detestable. A cold glint flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. The other party was determined to kill her. She would not let such a person live and bring danger to herself. She was very clear about her current attractiveness to others. If Su Minglei and the other two were to publicize it, it would be very troublesome. From what happened just now, she already understood the characters of these three people. Once they ran away, trouble would be inevitable. Master, are you planning to chase after them? Xiao Hei asked. But they've already traveled quite a distance. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to catch up to them. Although they had not spent much time conversing with Ouyang Jifeng, cultivators moved very quickly. Furthermore, they were not sure which direction the other party had left in. It would not be easy to catch up to them. I've already left a mark on Su Yaqing's body. I know where she is. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled. She had been worried that the other party would ruin the situation, so she had left a mark to prevent them from escaping. Impressive. Chapter 48-36. After Su Minglei and the other two decided to leave, they left as fast as they could. Bailey Hongzhuang's previous display of decisiveness had shocked them. If Bailey Hongzhuang changed her mind and dragged Ouyang Jifeng along to deal with them, it would be really troublesome. Therefore, the three of them left as fast as they could. I don't know if Bailey Hongzhuang will chase after us. Our previous judgment was really wrong. Su Minglei couldn't help but sigh. He thought that it was foolproof, but he didn't expect the other party to be stronger than them. Su Yaqing nodded. Fortunately, Jieqiao came. Otherwise, I would have lost my life. I really didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to deal with the two of you. It seems that everyone has underestimated her. Su Jieqiao wasn't clear about what had happened before, but he could roughly guess in his heart. That's right. Previously, everyone thought that Di Beichen came from the lower realm and couldn't possibly be the head of the Di family. However, based on the current situation, even if he didn't stay in the Di family all these years, his results are not worse than those who stayed in the aristocratic families. Su Minglei's eyes were filled with regret. If we knew the situation would be like this, we wouldn't have attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. Previously, when Xiao Sou and Bailey Hongzhuang had a conflict, you saw how Di Beichen protected her. If he knows that we wanted to kill Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm afraid he won't let us go. It was precisely because of this that he had considered it before, but in the end he still made this plan. Su Jieqiao sighed. There's no other way. Who would have thought that she would hide so deeply? However, we have to be more careful from now on. It's best to find the other members of the family as soon as possible. As long as they are stronger than Bailey Hongzhuang and Ouyang Jifeng, then we don't have to worry. Su Yaqing said. Alright, let's check if there are any marks on our bodies first. Su Minglei reminded. At their level of cultivation, it was very easy to leave a mark on the other party's body. If they didn't remove the mark, the other party would be able to know where they were at any time, which would undoubtedly be extremely troublesome. Hearing Su Minglei's reminder, Su Yaqing and Su Jieqiao were startled and hurriedly checked their bodies. I didn't leave any marks. Su Yaqing checked herself and felt relieved. That's good. Su Minglei nodded. I think she didn't expect something like this to happen, so she didn't have time to leave a mark. Maybe the cultivators of the lower realms don't have the habit of leaving marks. Su Jieqiao smiled. There are still some differences after all. Bailey Hongzhuang followed the marks she left and chased forward. Since she had made a decision, she had to solve this problem as soon as possible to avoid more trouble. Master, will they discover the mark you left behind? White Lion asked worriedly. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and shook her head. They shouldn't have discovered it yet. Otherwise they would have erased the mark directly. The method she used to leave the mark was rather special and belonged to the previous method. According to her judgment, Su Yaqing shouldn't be able to detect it. Even if the other party detected it, it would be very difficult to remove it. Chapter 48-37. Su Yaqing has been severely injured by me and her powers are no longer as strong as before. We can basically ignore her. She had not held back when she had dealt with Su Yaqin. Even though Su Yaqing had been saved in the end, her injuries were not light and she would not be able to recover in a short period of time. When we meet later, I'll poison her directly. Based on her current state, I'm afraid that she won't be immune to it. Her ink-black phoenix-like eyes flickered with a thoughtful light. Others were not aware of her identity as a poison master, so naturally, they would not be on their guard. At her level of cultivation, it would not be an easy task to poison someone to death. A cultivator's own defensive powers were already very strong. However, if the other party was injured, it would not be so easy to resist such a poison. In her heart, as long as she could catch up to the other party, Su Yaqing would become a dead woman. If it's only Su Minglei and Su Jieqiao, we can give it a try, Bai Shi said. We don't know how powerful Su Jieqiao, who had appeared later, is. Because he has not made a move, we can't tell. Xiaohe looked troubled. This was one of the problems that they needed to pay attention to. Let's go and take a look first. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. She did not think much of these problems. If the other party's powers were not much stronger than hers, she would treat it as practice. Besides, she has been lacking the opportunity to practice recently. Bailey Hongzhuang sensed that Su Yaqing and the others were getting closer and closer to them as the woman and the two beasts chased after them. Finally, she caught sight of them. You're here. Su Yaqing and Su Jieqiao were shocked when they heard the sudden voice. They stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. What are you doing here? Naturally, we're chasing after you. Bailey Hongzhuang replied calmly. Oh, how could this be? Su Yaqing's face was filled with terror. She had clearly checked her body carefully and found no trace of Bailey Hongzhuang's mark. How could they have found her? Bailey Hongzhuang ignored Su Yaqing's shock. She frowned as she stared at the two people in front of her. She did not know why, but she could not see Su Minglei. Where did Su Minglei go? Su Yaqing and Su Jieqiao looked at each other but didn't say anything. Bailey Hongzhuang, we've already talked about our grievances before. Why are you chasing after me now? Su Yaqing forced herself to remain calm. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I don't think I said that the feud between us is over. Miss Bailey, although I'm not too sure about what happened earlier, since it has come to this, let's just let it go. Su Jieqiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. If this continues, it won't do anyone any good. I can guarantee that we won't say anything after we leave. I don't believe you. Her elegant face was indifferent and her eyes were calm. It was obvious that no matter what the other party said, she would not change her mind. Su Jieqiao and Su Yaqing's expressions turned ugly when they heard this. Do it. Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Even though she did not know why Su Minglei was not here, this was quite beneficial to her. This way they could first deal with the two people in front of them before looking for Su Minglei. Xiao He and Bai Shi charged forward without hesitation when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's orders. Chapter 48-38. Su Yaqing was still unaware of what had happened. She only felt a sudden pain in her body and Bailey Hongzhuang's attack was about to hit her. She had no time to think. Just as she was about to block the attack, she realized that Bailey Hongzhuang had completely ignored her and had turned to attack Su Jieqiao instead. When she saw this, she could not help but be shocked. She could not understand why. However, she soon understood because she felt a sharp pain coming from her body. Following her careful examination, she realized that she had been poisoned. She thought about it and realized that the piercing pain from before had been caused by poisoning. "You've poisoned me?" Su Yaqing stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. She never thought that the other party would use such a method. However, in the face of Su Yaqing's shock, Bailey Hongzhuang could not even be bothered to reply. Besides, the other party was about to die, so there was no point in speaking. Su Jieqiao was completely shocked when he saw Su Yaqing fall. However, he did not have the time to feel sad over Su Yaqing's death. Because under the attack of Bailey Hongzhuang and the two contract beasts, he did not have the slightest strength to fight back. The injuries on his body continued to increase and he did not even have the chance to escape. "Bailey Hongzhuang, why must you be so ruthless?" Su Jieqiao glared angrily at Bailey Hongzhuang. "We clearly have no grudge against each other. This matter indeed has nothing to do with you. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for appearing at the wrong time." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. The first to make the wrong decision had been Su Minglei and Su Yaqing. This had nothing to do with Su Jieqiao, but since they were already together, they must have understood what had happened. If she were to let Su Jieqiao go, he would definitely cause trouble for her. That was not what she wanted to see. Bai Shi was enough to deal with Su Jieqiao. With the addition of Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He, the result was obvious. In a short period of time, Su Jieqiao no longer had the power to retaliate. "Where did Su Minglei go?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked. "I won't tell you." Su Jieqiao gritted his teeth as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His heart was filled with complex emotions. Previously, because Su Yaqing was injured, it was not good for her to travel all the time, so they rested for a short time. While they were resting, Su Minglei had talked to him and thought that the two of them should leave first. This was the safest way. At that time, he didn't understand why Su Minglei had decided to abandon Su Yaqing, and had even argued with Su Minglei about it. In the end, Su Minglei decided to leave on his own, and he didn't stop him. However, he did not expect that Su Minglei's judgment was actually correct. Bailey Hongzhuang had really found her. "It's fine if you don't want to talk about it." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced coldly at Su Jieqiao, and the sharp blade in her hand slashed across. "Clean and tidy. Master, if you kill him just like that, doesn't that mean we won't be able to find Su Minglei?" Xiao He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. Perhaps Su Minglei was somewhere nearby. "He won't talk." Bailey Hongzhuang slowly replied, "Even if I use other methods to force him to talk, I'm afraid that he won't be able to give us a specific location. The Divine Cloud Mystic Realm was not a place they were familiar with. No one knew where they would end up if they continued to walk forward. Even if Su Jieqiao had casually made up a lie, she wouldn't be able to tell if it was true or false." Chapter 48-39. Since that was the case, she might as well search for him herself. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bai Shi and Xiao He looked at each other. They were beginning to feel that their master was very smart and quick-witted. If my guess is correct, Su Minglei is a smart man. He must have predicted that I would come looking for him, so he ran away first. A complicated light flashed across Bailey Hongzhuang's bright eyes. She sighed inwardly. She never thought that she would be one step too late. Isn't his behavior a little too disloyal? He would actually abandon his own family members just like that. Xiao He was speechless. His behavior was truly contemptible. However, aside from this explanation, there seemed to be no other possibility. "Even though he's disloyal, it's undeniable that he's very smart," Bai Shi said. "If he had stayed behind, he would be dead by now." Bailey Hongzhuang took Su Jieqiao and Su Yaqing's storage rings in her hands, and with a casual swipe, she erased the imprint on them. She flipped through the rings and realized that there were many treasures inside. However, she did not look at them for long before putting them away. There are indeed many treasures in the storage rings of the disciples of aristocratic families. However, there aren't any particularly important items in the family. Clearly, They knew that they could perish here, so they did not bring any of their family's martial techniques or cultivation techniques with them. Nothing was more precious than a family's inheritance. However, these storage rings clearly did not contain it, so there was no need to examine them carefully. Master, should we go look for Su Minglei now? Xiao Hei's heart sank. If Su Minglei had run away just like that, she would not feel too good about it. Let's go our own way. There's no need to go out of our way to look for him. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was mild and calm. He must have deliberately changed his direction in order to avoid us. It won't be easy to find him. Previously, she had not exchanged blows with Su Minglei, so she had not left a mark on his body. She never thought that he would be so smart to have made such a prompt decision to abandon his own family. However, she believes that they would meet again sooner or later. Sigh, what a pity. Xiao Hei sighed. That fellow is so annoying. After the cultivators from the Jun family and the Ao family entered the Divine Cloud secret realm, they immediately began to search for Ao Lingxiao. They had already received orders to deal with Ao Lingxiao as soon as they saw him. Although there were quite a number of people from the D family and the Lin family, they had to try their luck in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. No one knew which side they would meet first. Once they met, they would be able to solve a huge problem. Therefore, what they cared about the most was not finding resources but finding Ao Lingxiao. At the same time, the D family and the Lin family were also searching for them. Di Beichen walked alone in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. He had already been here for a few days, but he had yet to meet a single person. Master, the area inside seems to be too big. We haven't met anyone else yet. Xiaobai looked helpless. Although she had already guessed that the area of the Immortal Cloud secret realm was not small, it was only after entering that she found out that it was actually this big. Indeed. Di Beichen's eyes darkened. I wonder how Hong Zhuang is doing now. He was most worried about Hong Zhuang. Although he knew that his wife would not be in any danger with the white dragon around, he could not help but worry. After all, the Jun family and the Lin family viewed them as a thorn in their side. Chapter 48-40. Looking at Di Beichen's worried expression, Xiaobai comforted him. Master, don't worry. With White Lion, Xiao Hei and White Dragon protecting her, Mistress will definitely not be in danger. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang was Xiaobai's master, but later on, its master became Di Beichen. After thinking about it, Xiaobai changed the way it addressed Bailey Hongzhuang to mistress. Not only that, but it was also very satisfied with the way it addressed her. In its opinion, no one would be able to think of a more suitable way to address her. That's right, master. Don't worry. Xiao Xuanzi flew beside Di Beichen. Mistress will definitely be safe. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He also understood this, but he could not help but feel a little worried. I feel that this Divine Cloud mystery realm is simply a maze. After entering, we haven't met anything at all. It would be good even if we met another cultivator. Xiaobai sighed. If they could meet another cultivator, at least it would be able to roughly guess the area of this place. However, since entering they were like headless flies. If they did not have a direction to leave in, they would not be able to differentiate between north, south, east, and west. It should be soon. Di Beichen pondered. Although he also knew that the Divine Cloud mystery realm was not small, it was already very rare for them to not meet another person for so many days. The possibility of them not meeting another person after this was very small. Master, look over there. There seems to be a medicinal field. Xiao Xuanzi had been flying in midair all this time, so naturally it could see further. In its line of sight, it had clearly noticed the existence of a medicinal field. Hearing Xiao Xuanzi's words, Di Beichen and Xiao Bai's eyes lit up. After wandering around here for so many days, if they came across a medicinal field, it would be a good harvest. I heard that there are many spiritual herbs in the Divine Cloud mystery realm. If we come across a medicinal field, then we can pick more spiritual herbs for mistress. Xiao Bai's eyes sparkled with excitement. As an alchemist, Bailey Hongzhuang needed spiritual herbs very much. If he wanted to improve his alchemy skills, he would need a lot of spiritual herbs to practice. Although the D family had a large business, it wasn't easy to get some precious herbs. What's more, there were still a few alchemists in the family. Bailey Hongzhuang naturally couldn't use them casually. Even if she could, she would still feel a little embarrassed. If they could obtain a lot of spiritual grasses here, it would be even better. Di Beichen's lips curled into a faint smile as he quickened his pace. Let's go take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to move forward after dealing with Su Yaqing and Su Minglei. Although Su Minglei's escape was not good news, she did not take it to heart. Many people knew that she had the pill formula for the 8 Revolutions Bodhi pill. So what? She had already mentally prepared herself. As for the spiritual herbs, although they were treasures, not everyone would be as greedy as Su Minglei and the others. They would offend her because of these. Once Su Minglei spread the news, she would also spread the news that Su Minglei had treasures on him. It was still unknown who would die more miserably. Since Su Minglei was a smart person, he would probably make a good judgment on this matter. Just as they were approaching, Bailey Hongzhuang's brows furrowed slightly as a trace of astonishment appeared in her eyes. Chapter 48-41. The stone is reacting. Bailey Hongzhuang exclaimed in surprise. Stone? Xiaohei was stunned. Clearly she had not realized what kind of stone it was. Baisher, on the other hand, reacted immediately. Master, are you talking about the stone that you had obtained in the Penglai Palace? Based on what he had learned, his master had only obtained this mysterious stone. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. That's right, it's that stone. Xiaohei immediately recalled Baisher's reminder. Back in the Penglai Palace, Bailey Hongzhuang had concocted a medicine that could heal dark-type injuries. As a reward, the palace master had promised her that she could choose a treasure of her choice. At the time, Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen such a stone. At the time, they had all felt that it was strange because this stone was pitch black and did not seem to have much value. Later on, Bailey Hongzhuang had studied it carefully. When she realized that she had not gained much from it, she had placed it in the Chaos Ring. However, she had not expected that this stone would react after entering the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. Master, how did it react? Baisher looked curiously at Bailey Hongzhuang. His master's taste was not bad at all. Back then no one had known the use of this stone. However, his master had still chosen it. Now it seems that she had made a good choice. Because this stone was an item from the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the black stone. The pitch-black stone was now emitting a faint glow. Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly sense that this stone was guiding her in a certain direction. Seeing the change in the stone, Xiaohei and Baisher looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. It's no wonder that back in the lower realm, no one had known the use of this stone. Xiaohei immediately understood. This was originally an item from the upper realm. How could anyone have discovered its use in the lower realm? Baisher nodded. However, I never thought that an item related to this stone would be in the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm. What a coincidence. If we hadn't come here, we probably wouldn't have known the use of this stone. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. When she first saw this stone, she had a strange feeling. She always felt that there was fate between them. It was because of this that she gave up on the other treasures and chose this one without hesitation. From this, it could be seen that feelings were also extremely important. Let's follow the direction the stone is pointing to. At the first moment, Bailey Hongzhuang had already made a decision. Since the stone had fallen into her hands, it meant that it was fated to be with her. Immediately after, the man and the 2 beasts rushed in the direction indicated by the stone. However, the area of the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm was extremely large. Even if they traveled at full speed, they would still not be able to reach it in a short period of time. During the journey, Bailey Hongzhuang also met other cultivators. The other cultivators were the same as her. They were all alone. After the 2 sides met, because they were not familiar with each other, they did not talk. Instead, they scattered far away. Clearly, they did not wish for any conflict to break out between them. That night, Bailey Hongzhuang leaned against a large tree to rest while Baisher was responsible for keeping watch. Even though the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm was a small world, everything here was no different from the forest in the outside world. Chapter 48-42. This Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm is really mysterious. Previously, when I heard that we would be leaving this place, I thought that there would be some powerful demonic beast. I didn't expect that there would be nothing after we entered. I was worried for nothing. Xiaohei smiled and sighed. In the past, they would always encounter all kinds of dangers when they were training. Not only did they have to guard against the sneak attacks of other cultivators, they also had to be prepared to deal with the attacks of demonic beasts. This time, when they entered this place, they were also prepared to fight at any time. Who would have thought that after 10 days in this place, other than the time when they met Su Minglei and the others, everything else had been peaceful? Are you used to being tortured? White Lion looked at Xiaohei mockingly. Now that I've asked you to be a little more peaceful, you still feel that something is wrong? Xiaohei rolled her eyes. I'm not a masochist. I just feel that this situation is a little different from what I imagined. Perhaps this is the difference between the training in the upper realm and the lower realm. White Lion pondered and said, however, it seems that the training in the upper realm is not as cruel as the lower realm. At least from its point of view, the dangers here were much less than what they had encountered in the past. Master, why aren't you saying anything? Xiao He and White Lion were chatting enthusiastically when they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had remained silent and could not help but ask. I'm thinking about the problem that you've mentioned. Bailey Hongzhuang supported her chin with her right hand as a thoughtful look flashed across her beautiful eyes. She had been very confused about this point. However, after so many days in this place, they had not encountered any danger. Could it be that the immortal cloud mystic realm was really that simple? I still feel that it shouldn't be that simple. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said, even if the upper realm is different from the lower realm, their training can't be without danger. Previously, when they were in the D family, the elder did not explain much about the situation in the immortal cloud mystic realm. He only said that this place was very suitable for the growth of spiritual herbs. According to her judgment, the situation in the immortal cloud mystic realm was probably not exactly the same. Hence, there was no way to explain it. This situation was not impossible. I think so too. White Lion nodded with a complicated look in his eyes. Although the journey has been peaceful, I have a strange feeling in my heart. You feel the same way? That's right, White Lion replied with certainty. Since even you think so, there must be something wrong with this. Bailey Hongzhuang had a serious look on her face. All along, Baisher's senses had been very sharp. If she was the only one who felt this way, it might be an illusion. Since she and White Lion felt this way, it might be true. But what kind of danger could there be? Xiao He looked puzzled. Judging from the situation in the vicinity, she really couldn't think of anything. Bailey Hongzhuang took a deep breath and said, I can't tell at the moment, but we can't relax too much. If there really is a problem, we can deal with it in time. In the blink of an eye, a night had passed. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the two beasts continued their journey. She could vaguely sense that the item related to the black stone was somewhere far away. At the very least, they wouldn't be able to reach it in a short period of time. After understanding this, Bailey Hongzhuang was not too anxious. Chapter 48-43. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang had been moving in the direction that the stone had sensed. On this day, after traveling for some time, she sensed the presence of cultivators in front of her. It was not just one person but a group of people. Upon discovering this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao He and said, go and find out what's going on. Xiao He was undoubtedly the most suitable person to scout for information. It was extremely small and possessed a certain level of ability to hide its aura. As long as the other party did not look carefully, they would not be able to discover Xiao He. Xiao He immediately nodded. I'll go right away. After Xiao He's figure disappeared, Bailey Hongzhuang and Baisher also hid themselves. I hope we'll run into Di Beichen and the others. Baisher's eyes were filled with anticipation. Throughout their journey, they had hoped to run into Di Beichen and the others as soon as possible. Even if they did not run into Di Beichen, it would be great if they could run into cultivators from the Di family or the Lin family. However, they had not run into them at all. They felt rather helpless. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. I hope so. Just as they were waiting, they realized that Xiao He had not returned after a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but frown. Something did not seem right. Master, Xiao He usually gathers information very quickly. However, it has not returned after such a long time. This does not fit its usual style. Baisher had been hanging out with Xiao He ever since it was born. From the time it had been bullied by Xiao He to now when it was bullying Xiao He. The two beasts were very familiar with each other. This was definitely not in line with Xiao He's personality. Something must have gone wrong. Let's go and take a look. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. We have to be careful. Since this had happened, the other party must be an enemy and not a friend. Although she did not want to believe it, Xiao He had not returned for so long. She must have been discovered by the other party. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and Baisher quickened their pace and quickly rushed forward. As they got closer, they were able to clearly see the situation in front of them. But when she saw it, Bailey Hongzhuang's face turned cold. In her line of sight, Jun Lingxuan, Jun Shitao, and Xiao Shou were all present. There was also another person that Bailey Hongzhuang found familiar, Su Minglei. At this moment, Xiao He was being tied up and stepped on by Jun Lingxuan with a rope. Upon closer inspection, one would realize that it was not an ordinary rope. The rope was full of barbs. Once it fell on the body, it would definitely be dripping with blood. It would be an extremely painful thing to remove it. At this moment, blood was flowing out of Xiao Hei's body, dyeing the ground red. Xiao Hei. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. Previously, when Xiao Hei had not returned, she had guessed that Xiao Hei had been held hostage. However, she never thought that the other party would treat Xiao Hei in this manner. Master, I'm sorry. Xiao Hei's eyes were filled with shame. She never thought that the other party would discover her after she had approached them. Clearly, the other party had a treasure that could detect nearby auras. Hence, she had been discovered the moment she had approached them. Once she had been discovered, she had wanted to leave immediately. However, these fellows seemed to be well prepared and she had not been able to free herself. In the end, she had ended up in this state. Xiao Hei, we will definitely save you. Bai Shi's eyes burned with a raging fire. He could not control the rage in his heart when he saw how Xiao Hei had been treated. Bailey Hongzhuang, you've really come. Chapter 48-44. Let go of Xiao Hei. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was icy cold. Her dark eyes were like a frozen lake in October as she stared fixedly at Jun Lingxuan as if she could freeze everything into ice. Xiao Hei. Jun Lingxuan raised an eyebrow and increased the force of his foot on Xiao Hei. Are you talking about this furball? As Jun Lingxuan increased the strength of his foot, the barbs on the rope pierced even deeper into Blackie's body. Blackie couldn't help but let out a muffled groan as bright red blood rapidly flowed out. Stop it! Bailey Hongzhuang roared. Her eyes were deep and cold. Why should I stop it? Jun Lingxuan laughed mockingly as he stared mockingly at Bailey Hongzhuang. His voice was frivolous and playful. Why don't you kneel down and beg me? That's right, if you kneel down and beg us, perhaps we'll be in a good mood and let it go. Jun Zitao's face was full of smiles but a trace of resentment appeared in the depths of his eyes. Weren't you very arrogant during the pill refining competition? Why aren't you arrogant now? I said let it go. A shocking murderous aura emanated from Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black eyes. The temperature around Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to drop to the freezing point in an instant as a domineering and powerful aura exploded from her body. Noticing the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's aura, Jun Lingxuan and the others felt their hearts tremble. They had never seen Bailey Hongzhuang like this before. The murderous intent in her eyes was almost tangible. Even though they knew that they held the absolute advantage, they could not help but feel intimidated when faced with Bailey Hongzhuang's current state. Xiao Sou's eyes flashed with deep shock when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's current state. She never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to emit such an aura. It was truly shocking. It's just a contracted beast. I didn't expect you to care so much about it. It's not just a contracted beast. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. To her, Xiao Hei was not just a contracted beast but also her family. She was a transmigrator. From the day she was reborn, she had been alone. However, Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai had always been by her side. They knew everything about her and were loyal to her. With their companionship, she never felt lonely. However, these damned bastards are now treating Xiao Hei in such a manner. She could not tolerate this. Although Xiao Sou was surprised by Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction, this was exactly what she wanted to see. Bailey Hongzhuang, when you had acted so arrogantly in front of me in the past, did you not think that you would one day be under my control? A complacent smile bloomed on Xiao Sou's lips. She had always wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang in agony. The more Bailey Hongzhuang was in pain, the happier she would be. I've never paid any attention to those who have lost to me. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold and her exquisite and beautiful face showed no signs of fear. At the same time, she was communicating with the white dragon in her heart. White dragon, are you confident if you attack? She could see that Xiao Hei was in a terrible state. That strange rope seemed to be able to injure her core. If it was only a flesh wound, Xiao Hei would not be so dispirited. Hence, she could not afford to waste too much time here. She must rescue Xiao Hei as soon as possible. Based on her and Bai Shi's powers, they should be able to deal with the other two. She would have to leave the other two to Bai Shi. Hongzhuang, you must think this through. Other cultivators could appear at any time. Chapter 48-45. We can't care about that now. The most important thing right now is to rescue Xiao Hei. Bailey Hongzhuang's gloomy black eyes were like a deep abyss, hiding a power that could devour everything. At this moment, she was in no mood to care about anything else. All she wanted was for Xiao Hei to be safe and for these damned fellows to pay the price. She would never let anyone who had hurt anyone she cares about get away with it. What more her closest kin? Since you've made your decision very well, I'll make my move. The white dragon did not hesitate. It knows that Bailey Hongzhuang has made all the necessary preparations in her heart. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to attack with the white dragon's anxious voice suddenly rang out, "Wait. What is it?" Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. She does not wish for any problems to arise at a time like this. "I sense another aura from Jun Lingshuan's body. I'm afraid that there's another powerful existence by his side." The white dragon's voice sank. This situation has clearly exceeded their expectations. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart turned cold. If Jun Lingshuan really does have such a powerful existence by his side, their current situation would be very dire indeed. At the very least, it would be very difficult for them to rescue Xiaohe. "Based on your judgment, what should we do?" Even though she was worried about Xiaohe's safety, Bailey Hongzhuang did not lose her sense of propriety. She understands that the more dangerous the situation, the more she needs to remain calm. "I can only sense that the aura is not weak, but I can't determine its actual power. The best situation now is for me to not make an appearance. Once I do, that aura will appear as well. It won't help with the current situation. On the contrary, you'll expose the secret of the Chaos Ring." The white dragon's voice was filled with mixed emotions. It never thought that Jun Lingshuan would have such a powerful ally. However, based on the current situation, what it had said was the best way to deal with it. This news was no different from a nightmare to Bailey Hongzhuang. If the white dragon could not lend a hand, then she and the white lion would naturally not be a match for the four of them. It would be even more difficult to rescue Xiaohe. Xiao Sou's face turned ashen when she heard Bailey Hongzhuang's contemptuous words. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so unyielding at this moment. The most despicable thing was that the other party's words reminded her of the time when she was in the underground market. Bailey Hongzhuang had also treated her like a loser. She was the dignified young miss of the Xiao clan, yet she was actually looked down upon by someone from the lower realms. One could imagine the fury in her heart. "Bailey Hongzhuang, don't be too arrogant." Xiao Sou gritted her teeth and glared at her coldly, as if she wanted to tear her into pieces. "You have to think carefully. Even if that contracted beast has reached the peak of the Starlight Realm, you are still no match for us. Do you want to see your contracted beast die in front of you with your own eyes?" Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned to Su Minglei. If she only felt disgust towards Su Minglei before, then at this moment she couldn't wait to tear him into pieces. She regretted letting Su Minglei escape the most. If not for that, he wouldn't have fallen into such a predicament. Facing Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp eyes, Su Minglei couldn't help but shiver. However, he didn't retreat because of this. Chapter 48-46. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were like black vortexes as she looked coldly at Su Minglei. "Didn't you already know the outcome from the moment you gave up on them? Are you putting on an act now when you display such a caring appearance?" If Su Minglei was slightly unperturbed, then perhaps she would think slightly more highly of him. But after he'd clearly made such a heartless decision, he revealed such a caring appearance now, and that was slightly laughable. Along with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Jun Lingshuan's group of three couldn't help but look at Su Minglei. Even though the decision Su Minglei made earlier wasn't a big deal to them, their own lives were the most important after all, and selfishness was human nature. But at this moment, along with Bailey Hongzhuang's words, they felt it was rather reasonable. A true villain wasn't so detestable, and it was a hypocrite that was detestable. A trace of embarrassment appeared on Su Minglei's face as he'd never imagined that his question would actually give rise to such a topic. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you're eloquent indeed. But you'll surely die here today, and you'll be buried with Yiqing and the others." Su Minglei spoke furiously. Meanwhile, the white dragon's voice resounded out in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. "Hongzhuang, there's another way now." "What way?" Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned, and she was really unable to think of a better way in the current situation. "If you're already prepared to expose the secret, then directly place Xiaohe into the Chaos Ring." The white dragon's voice revealed a slightly heavy tone. If it was possible, it naturally didn't wish for the secret of the Chaos Ring to be exposed. But Xiaohe was an extremely important existence as well, so it couldn't be helped at the critical moment. "There's another way, and that's to place all of them into the Chaos Ring after I come out. Because I'm unable to confirm exactly what cultivation the other aura on Jun Lingshuan's body possesses, and I can't guarantee that I'll be able to defeat him. In this way we can't enter the Chaos Ring again, and we have to wait until we have sufficient confidence to annihilate them before entering. White Dragon's eyes flashed with a complicated light. For the current situation, this was not a bad idea. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. This is indeed a good idea. As long as they could save Xiaohei, that would be the best. I'll try to put them all into the chaos ring. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned cold. She was disgusted by the people in front of her. If she could get rid of them, she would be helping the D family to clear the way. Alright, I'll be ready to come out at any time, White Dragon replied. After making her decision, Bailey Hongzhuang did not delay any longer. With a thought, she was about to put Jun Lingxuan and the others into her chaos ring. However, after she tried, she realized that she did not succeed. What's going on? Bailey Hongzhuang furrowed her brows. Ever since she had obtained the chaos ring, nothing like this had ever happened. Try putting Xiaohei into the chaos ring again. White Dragon's expression was complicated as well. Bailey Hongzhuang tried again but to no avail. How could this be? Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. She had never noticed this problem before. Ever since they had entered the Divine Cloud secret realm, Xiaohei and Baisher had always been by her side and had never entered the chaos ring. Hence, she had never noticed this. Chapter 48-47. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with disbelief. All this while, they had been able to enter and exit the chaos ring as they pleased. However, she never thought that she would encounter such a situation in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Perhaps only inanimate objects can be placed in here. Living objects cannot enter another space directly. The White Dragon's voice deepened. Actually, this is also a type of restrictive spell. Only powerful cultivators can set it up. Previously, when you were in the lower realm, most restrictive spells would not be able to affect the chaos ring at all. However, the restrictive spells in the upper realm are much stronger than those in the lower realm. Bailey Hongzhuang tried 2 more times but realized that there was no effect. Only then did she realize the truth. If that's the case, if you come out, does that mean that you won't be able to enter the chaos ring again? Her clear, cold eyes flashed with a complicated light. Or, you won't be able to come out at all? Based on the current situation, this was very likely. I can't be certain about this either. However, it's just as you've said. If I come out, I'm afraid that I won't be able to enter again. The White Dragon replied. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart slowly sank. This was definitely not good news for her. Previously, she had not placed too much importance on the dangers of the Immortal Cloud secret realm. Because of the power of the Chaos Ring, she had many ways to escape. However, without this method, the danger of the Chaos Ring has greatly increased. At the very least, saving Xiaohei has become extremely difficult. Jun Lingxuan and the others did not panic when they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had sunk into silence. Since Bailey Hongzhuang would not be able to escape, they would just tease her for a while longer and treat it as a form of entertainment. Bailey Hongzhuang, you don't have to think anymore. No matter what you think, it's useless. Xiao Shou sneered. What on earth do you want? After realizing that their previous methods were useless, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiao Shou and the others once again. She could only rely on herself now. Didn't I tell you before? If you kneel down and beg us, I will consider letting it go. Jun Lingxuan's lips curved into a playful smile as he proudly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. With Bailey Hongzhuang's peerless face, most men would not be able to lay their hands on her. If Xiao Shou was not here, he really wanted to make Bailey Hongzhuang his woman. However, he knew that he had to look at the big picture. Right now, the Jun family had to join forces with the Xiao family. Only then would they be able to completely overthrow the D family. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was outstanding, she did not have enough power behind her, so Xiao Shou was the most important. One of the main reasons why he was teasing Bailey Hongzhuang was to curry favor with Xiao Shou. He was well aware of a woman's jealousy. In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang had stolen the limelight. Xiao Shou hated Bailey Hongzhuang to the extreme. At this moment, he could help Xiao Shou vent her anger. Xiao Shou's impression of him would definitely improve greatly. Compared to the other suitors, his chances of winning were undoubtedly the highest. In your dreams? Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. If that's your attitude, then there's nothing I can do. Jun Lingxuan spread out his hands and increased the strength of his feet. Xiaohei could not help but groan again. Her face revealed a painful expression. Stop. Bailey Hongzhuang said through gritted teeth. Chapter 48-48. When Xiao Shou saw Jun Lingxuan venting his anger for her, a deep smile appeared in her eyes. The more pain Bailey Hongzhuang was in, the happier she was. During this period of time she had been suppressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Due to her engagement with Di Beichen, she had been compared to Bailey Hongzhuang everywhere. Initially she had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was not fit to appear on the same stage as her. Now she has become the object of comparison. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had been in the limelight during this period of time. Many people had vaguely decided that she could not compare to her. This was an insult to her. Every time she had nightmares she would feel a strong urge to kill her. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was standing in front of them in humiliation, completely helpless at their mercy. Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had her arrogant demeanor. This made her feel a great sense of satisfaction. If you don't kneel down, I'll kill it. Jun Lingxuan pulled out his sharp sword and pointed it at Xiaohe. The tip of the sharp sword pierced Xiaohe's body. Fresh blood stained the tip of the sword, but Xiaohe held on and did not make a sound. Her dark, bottomless eyes stared fixedly at Jun Lingxuan. The dark light in her eyes was like two bottomless pools, emitting a shocking murderous intent. Jun Lingxuan, after this day if I don't die, I will kill you with my own hands. Bailey Hongzhuang spat out these vicious, murderous words. Her hands were clenched into fists as hatred burned wildly in her chest, nearly burning her entire being into ashes. Hee. Jun Lingxuan chuckled. Based on your current situation, saying such harsh words to me won't have any deterrent effect. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped stalling for time. Jun Zitao sneered, if you don't kneel down and beg for mercy, this contract beast will really lose its life. Master, don't worry about me. Leave quickly. When Xiaohe saw Bailey Hongzhuang being humiliated by Jun Lingxuan and the others, her eyes flashed with hatred. It never thought that its master would suffer such humiliation because of it. It secretly hated its own uselessness. If it had not fallen into the hands of Jun Lingxuan, why would its master have to endure all this? Seeing its master suffer, it felt even worse. If that was the case, it would rather die a quick death. Shut up. Jun Zitao kicked Xiaohe, then looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, you have to think carefully, time waits for no one. Master, forget it. It's not worth it. Baisher looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, let's leave quickly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher, then at Xiaohe with tears in her eyes. Finally, a determined light flashed in her eyes. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang stepped back a few steps. When Xiao Sou saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was about to escape, she took a few steps forward and approached Bailey Hongzhuang. Clearly, if Bailey Hongzhuang were to escape, Xiaohe would chase after her immediately. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to turn around and leave, she exchanged glances with Baisher. Baisher, we only have one chance. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. I understand. Then Bailey Hongzhuang and Baisher turned around and left as quickly as they could. They're running away. Xiao Sou quickly shouted. Chapter 48-49. A contracted beast was undoubtedly very important to every cultivator, but it was definitely not as important as their own life. When she saw how Bailey Hongzhuang valued Xiaohe so much, she felt a little strange. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang turning around to leave, she realized that Bailey Hongzhuang had put on an act to divert their attention so that she could escape. When Jun Lingxuan and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, a trace of astonishment flashed across their eyes. However, they were not overly anxious because of this. This was because from the moment Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared here, it was already destined that she would not be able to escape. However, what happened next was beyond their expectations. Just as Xiao Sou was about to chase after Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly flashed and appeared behind Xiao Sou at lightning speed. A dagger appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and was placed horizontally across Xiao Sou's neck. Xiao Sou was equally shocked. She never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly make such a move. It was completely beyond her expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang, this is your scheme. Xiao Sou cried out angrily and immediately struggled to break free from Bailey Hongzhuang's grip. Don't move. Bailey Hongzhuang held Xiao Sou hostage. If you dare to move again, I can't guarantee that my dagger won't disfigure your face. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Sou instantly stopped moving. To a woman, nothing was more important than her face. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't act recklessly. Xiao Sou's voice was filled with anxiety. She was really worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would go crazy and ignore everything. Let go of Xiaohe. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned to Jun Lingxuan. Jun Lingxuan, Jun Zitao, and Su Minglei could not help but feel astonished when they saw this sudden change. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was holding Xiao Sou hostage, Jun Lingshuan's eyes flashed with a complicated light. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so calm at a time like this and even come up with such a plan. It must be said that they had underestimated her. This Bailey Hongzhuang is much smarter than Xiao Souo. A voice rang in Jun Lingshuan's mind. It's a pity that she doesn't have a strong background. Otherwise I wouldn't treat her like this. Jun Lingshuan shrugged his shoulders. He had never cared about relationships. Only benefits were the most important. He did not like Xiao Souo. Although there were many cultivators who pursued Xiao Souo, he felt that most of them did not admire Xiao Souo herself but her benefits and the Xiao family behind her. He was the same. If the Xiao family did not exist, any man would probably choose Bailey Hongzhuang before Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Souo. Because not only was she beautiful, but she was also smart and even very capable. There was nothing to nitpick about. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly let go of Miss Xiao. Jun Lingshuan's face revealed a nervous expression and hurriedly said, "Let go of Xiao He first." Bailey Hongzhuang did not back down. "All right then." Jun Lingshuan nodded, "We'll let her go together. You have no right to negotiate with me." Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a determined and ruthless light. "If you don't let her go, I'll kill her directly." Chapter 4850. Faced with Jun Shitao's threat, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold and her gaze was icy. "It looks like you want Xiao Souo to die." Saying that, the dagger in her hand slit open Xiao Souo's skin and fresh blood immediately flowed out. "Stop it." Xiao Souo quickly cried out when she felt the pain in her neck. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to kill her and her heart was filled with remorse. She had actually fallen into her hands. "Young Master Jun, let go of Xiao He at once." Xiao Souo looked pleadingly at Jun Lingshuan. She felt that if this were to go on, Bailey Hongzhuang would very likely kill her. After all, to Bailey Hongzhuang she was also an extremely loathsome existence. Hearing that, Jun Lingshuan nodded. "All right, I'll let it go." In the next moment, Jun Lingshuan immediately released the rope that was tied around Xiao He's body. Immediately after that, Xiao He moved her body and quickly approached Bailey Hongzhuang. "Master." The weak Xiao He came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. "I'm sorry I've dragged you into this." Seeing that Xiao He had returned, Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. "Don't say such silly things as long as you're all right." But looking at the extremely weak Xiao He before her, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. "Why are you so weak?" "There's something strange about that rope, it's been absorbing my blood essence," Xiao He said in a low voice. Ever since she had been tied up by that rope, she had discovered that the blood essence in her body was being continuously absorbed. Blood essence was extremely important to both cultivators and demonic beasts. Once the blood essence was absorbed, one's condition would quickly deteriorate. At this moment, more than half of the blood essence in her body had been absorbed and she had naturally become like this. Absorbing blood essence? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows flashed with a trace of surprise. She really didn't expect that the rope would have such an effect. "That's too vicious," Yi Futian said. White Lion's eyes also flashed with intense hatred. If they had not held Xiao Souo hostage, Xiao He would not have been able to live for long under the constant absorption of the rope. Even if Little Black was saved now with its current weak state, if they couldn't find the essence blood, it would take a long time for it to recover. "I'm afraid this has something to do with Jun Lingshuan's aura." White Dragon's voice rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. It seems that the aura on Jun Lingshuan's body isn't anything good. Since it needed to absorb a person's blood essence, it could be seen that the cultivation method it practiced was also vicious. There were many vicious cultivation methods in this world that relied on absorbing blood essence and finding a human cauldron to increase one's cultivation. Even though the rate of increase was very fast, it was extremely vicious and was despised by many. She never thought that Jun Lingshuan, a disciple of an aristocratic family, would have such an existence by his side. "This isn't strange." White Dragon appeared to be relatively calm. "Many people put on a dignified front but they're not good people behind the scenes. Master Xiao He has been reduced to this state. I'm afraid that she won't be able to recover in a short period of time." White Lion sighed. As a demonic beast, he understood the importance of blood essence to a demonic beast all too well. After losing so much blood essence, Xiao He's powers would decrease by a large amount. "Bailey Hongzhuang, I've released your contracted beast. Now you should release Lady Xiao." Jun Lingshuan spoke. Chapter 48-51. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're too shameless. Xiao Sou's eyes were burning with rage. You're going back on your word. Xiao Sou, get this straight. I've never said that I'll let you go. How am I going back on my word? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. Besides, in terms of shamelessness, I can't compare to you. Sensing the chilling chill in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Sou couldn't help but turn her pleading gaze towards Jun Lingxuan. Now they could only rely on Jun Lingxuan to think of a solution. She had already fallen into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, and it was obvious that nothing they said would be of any use. Big brother, what should we do? Jun Zitao's brows furrowed. I didn't think that this Bailey Hongzhuang would be so smart. If we attack her directly, I'm afraid that Miss Xiao would lose her life. Bailey Hongzhuang was already a turtle in a jar, and it was impossible for her to escape. Now that Xiao Sou was being held hostage, they were instead restricted and didn't dare to make a move. Because once Xiao Sou lost her life, their alliance with the Xiao family would be affected. So no matter what, they must protect Xiao Sou. Young Master Jun, this Bailey Hongzhuang is extremely cunning. We have to think of a way. Su Minglei's face was just as ugly. He had been avoiding Bailey Hongzhuang's pursuit all this time, worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would come looking for him. It was only after he met Jun Lingxuan and the others that he felt completely relieved. After all, the grudges between the Jun family and the Di family were clear to all of them. It was because of this that he had told them about the conflict between himself and Bailey Hongzhuang, and had asked Jun Lingxuan and the others to make preparations. He was also puzzled by Jun Lingxuan's methods. Previously, when Xiao He had appeared, he hadn't noticed it at all. But Jun Lingxuan seemed to have predicted it and had immediately ordered them to attack a certain spot. Just like that, Xiao He had fallen into their hands. In fact, even if Xiao He had appeared right in front of him, he probably wouldn't have noticed it. After this incident, he felt that Jun Lingxuan was a terrifying existence. If he could, he only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the situation before him now's an impossible. You've saved your life, Xiao He Hongzhuang, but you should know that she's in a very weak state. Jun Lingxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang firmly. As long as you let Miss Xiao go, I'll return this thing to you. How about it? As soon as he finished speaking, a transparent glass bottle appeared in Jun Lingxuan's hand. Inside the bottle was a bright red liquid. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. That's Xiao He's blood essence. Baisher hurriedly exclaimed. That's right. That's my blood essence. Xiao He's eyes burned with fury. Ever since she was born, she had never been treated like this. The feeling of having her blood essence drawn out was the most painful. If we retrieve this blood essence, will Xiao He's condition improve? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She didn't know much about this. After all, there were some differences between monsters and cultivators. Yes. Baisher nodded. Xiao Sou had also heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and her two contracted beasts. She hurriedly said, since that's the case, Bailey Hongzhuang, what are you still thinking about? Chapter 48-52. The moment she threw it out, Jun Lingxuan's voice rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang, that bottle is made of glass. Once it breaks, it will be useless. At the same time, Jun Zitao attacked Baisher. Seeing Jun Zitao's sudden attack, Baisher instinctively dodged. Seeing that the glass bottle was about to hit the ground, Bailey Hongzhuang moved and caught the glass bottle in her hand. Taking advantage of the time when Bailey Hongzhuang caught the glass bottle, Xiao Sou's inner energy surged and attacked Bailey Hongzhuang, then quickly retreated and escaped from Bailey Hongzhuang's grip. Miss Xiao, are you all right? Jun Lingxuan came to Xiao Sou's side, his handsome face revealing a look of concern. Xiao Sou nodded. Young Master Jun, thank you. She knew very well that if it wasn't for Jun Lingxuan, she would have died in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Miss Xiao, you're too polite. We're on the same side. As long as you're safe, I can rest assured. Jun Lingxuan's smile was still on his face, like a spring breeze. Looking at Jun Lingxuan like this, Xiao Sou's heartbeat suddenly sped up and her cheeks flushed red. Although she knew that Jun Lingxuan had feelings for her, she didn't take it to heart. Because all along there had been many cultivators who pursued her. But after Jun Lingxuan saved her, her thoughts suddenly changed. It was only now that she realized that Jun Lingxuan was also so handsome. Most importantly, she was very important in his eyes. Jun Lingxuan also noticed the change in Xiao Sou's expression, and the complacency in his heart grew stronger. It seemed that his goal was about to be achieved. Xiao Sou obviously had feelings for him, so it was only a matter of time before he completely captured Xiao Sou's heart. He had to thank Bailey Hongzhuang. If it weren't for this, he probably wouldn't have been able to make Xiao Sou fall in love with him. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Xiao Sou had broken free from her control, she did not pay too much attention to it. She carefully checked the blood essence to make sure that there was nothing wrong with it before handing it over to Xiaohe. Xiaohe, this is for you. At this moment, Xiaohe was simply too weak. Bailey Hongzhuang also hoped that she would be able to recover quickly after finding her blood essence. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to even stay awake in her current state. Thank you, Master. Xiaohe accepted the blood essence. Bailey Hongzhuang, what's the use of saving your contracted beast? Today all of you will die here. Jun Zitao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang coldly. He only felt that the other party's previous efforts were all useless. Their goal was never Xiaohe, but Bailey Hongzhuang. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang appeared here, she was destined to never leave. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. The outcome hasn't been decided yet. Don't be happy too early. Ah, what did I hear? Jun Zitao laughed. You're just a mere 6-star light realm. You're dreaming if you want to escape from our hands. They had already learned about Bailey Hongzhuang's specific strength from Su Minglei. Even if Su Minglei repeatedly emphasized that Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength was stronger than his, they would not put her in their eyes. No matter how strong he was, how strong could he be? Chapter 48-53. In the face of Jun Zitao's disdainful words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm, her eyes clear and unwavering as if she was not affected at all. Big brother, let me meet this Bailey Hongzhuang and see how capable she is to be so arrogant. Jun Zitao looked at Jun Lingxuan and suggested. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan frowned. Zitao, she's a little strange. Big brother, don't worry, there won't be a problem. Jun Zitao was full of confidence and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. You're here, what are you afraid of? I'll take this opportunity to meet her and see what a cultivator from the lower realms is capable of. At this time, Su Minglei hurriedly spoke up. Second young Master Jun, this Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength is much stronger than her cultivation. It's not as simple as it looks. Jun Zitao frowned and waved his hand, his face full of displeasure. What? Do you think I'm not her opponent? Seeing this, Su Minglei forcibly swallowed back the words she wanted to say. Her expression was awkward, and she quickly waved her hand. Of course not. Since you're not, then why are you talking nonsense here? Jun Zitao asked. Su Minglei immediately fell silent. He was just being kind, he didn't expect to be reprimanded by Jun Zitao, and his heart was filled with anger. He was the young master of the Su family, and he was being treated like this by Jun Zitao. If it weren't for the fact that they had more people in the Jun family, he wouldn't have bothered with Jun Zitao. At this moment he wished that Jun Zitao would die in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. Who asked him to be so arrogant? He deserved it. Young Master Jun, since second young master wants to try, let him try. Xiao Sou smiled at Jun Zitao. With you here nothing will happen. If you need help we'll do it directly. Jun Lingxuan listened to Xiao Sou's words and nodded. Since you want to try, then go ahead. Jun Zitao had always listened to Jun Lingxuan. After seeing Jun Lingxuan agree, a smile appeared on his face. Thank you, big brother. Don't worry, I will definitely teach her a lesson and help my future sister-in-law vent her anger. Jun Zitao's face was filled with joy as he looked at Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan with an ambiguous gaze. As Jun Lingxuan's younger brother, he naturally knew what his elder brother was thinking. This trip to the immortal cloud mystic realm was a great opportunity for him to pursue Xiao Sou. After what happened just now, he believed that Xiao Sou would definitely become his future sister-in-law. Suddenly hearing Jun Zitao's words, Xiao Sou was slightly taken aback. Her face quickly flushed red and her eyes were filled with shyness. Jun Lingxuan smiled and explained, Miss Xiao, my younger brother doesn't think before he speaks. Please don't take it to heart. Xiao Sou nodded her head shyly, but her heart was filled with disappointment. However, Jun Lingxuan's next words made her happy once again. Of course, if all of this can become a reality, it would naturally be the happiest thing for me. As he said that, Jun Lingxuan sized up Xiao Sou's expression. Feeling Jun Lingxuan's gaze, Xiao Sou became even more shy, not knowing what to say. Jun Lingxuan saw that he had achieved his goal and did not say anything more. He understood that for a woman to accept him, it would naturally take some time. Chapter 48-54. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ambiguous relationship between Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan, and a trace of ridicule surfaced in her eyes. From the looks of it, Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan were bound to become a couple in the future. With such a fickle character, she had actually said that she liked Beichen. How astonishing. Master, I had thought that Xiao Sou was very infatuated. Back then she had said that she liked Beichen. How long has it been? It's only been a few months and she's already fallen in love with someone else. Tiske, the speed at which she changes her heart is really extraordinary. White Lion's gaze fell upon Xiao Sou. He had always hated Xiao Sou, especially her arrogance and unreasonable behavior. However, he had always thought that she was acting this way because she liked Beichen. Now, it seemed that this woman's love was really cheap. Even Xiao He, who was busy recovering, could not help but speak up. Jun Lingxuan, you'd better think carefully. If you marry a woman like this in the future, she might cheat on you when you're not paying attention. That would be fun. Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan, who had originally been a couple, had an ugly look on their faces when they heard Xiao He and White Lion's words. Xiao Sou's face turned ashen and the shyness on her face instantly disappeared. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of anger. As a woman, the most taboo thing was to be fickle. Bailey Hongzhuang's two contracted beasts had put such a label on her head. She would never be able to clear her name. Bailey Hongzhuang, what nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Sou's expression was ferocious. If you dare to speak nonsense again, I'll kill you immediately. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. What? Did we hit the nail on the head? That's why he jumped up so anxiously? Actually, you don't have to be too angry. We all know the truth. Do you think Jun Lingxuan doesn't know? Xiao Sou was taken aback and she quickly turned to look at Jun Lingxuan. Young Master Jun, I am not like what she said. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly, the smile on his face unchanged. I understand. However, in the face of Jun Lingxuan, Xiao Sou could not help but worry. She didn't understand if Jun Lingxuan was trying to comfort her or something. After all, men were always very concerned about such things. At the thought of this, Xiao Sou's hatred towards Bailey Hongzhuang deepened. She must skin Bailey Hongzhuang alive and let her die in excruciating pain. Jun Lingxuan's eyes darkened. He naturally knew that Xiao Sou was very infatuated with Di Beichen and the speed of her change was indeed very fast. However, he didn't mind. Because the one he cared about was never Xiao Sou herself. Hence, he didn't take Bailey Hongzhuang's words to heart. Miss Xiao, you don't have to get angry over her. I'll go teach her a lesson now and make her kneel in front of you and kowtow to admit her mistakes. Jun Zitao's face was ashen. His big brother was finally going to be together with Xiao Sou. He didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang's two contracted beasts would suddenly say such a thing. It was obvious that it had caused some damage. All right. Xiao Sou nodded, her eyes sinister and vicious. I want her to die here today. In the next moment, Jun Zitao took a step forward and walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'll give you a chance to fight one-on-one. Show me what you've got. Chapter 48-55. Master, don't worry. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was instructing Baisher, Jun Zitao's figure flashed and turned into an invisible ray of light that attacked directly. Seeing that Jun Zitao had launched a sneak attack on her, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and a sharp light appeared in her beautiful eyes. The next moment, the mind-severing sword in her hand stabbed violently in a direction without hesitation. Jun Zitao did a backflip and retreated a few steps. When his figure could be seen clearly again, he was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with an ashen face. Jun Zitao had always been very confident in his figure. He was very good at speed. Usually, when he launched a sneak attack, the average person would not be able to react in time. However, he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to detect his location. His eyes were suddenly filled with astonishment. You can actually detect me? What's so strange about detecting you? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her eyes were cold. It was true that the naked eye could not detect Jun Zitao's true location. However, she could lock onto him based on her aura. Moreover, after so many years of fighting, she had already developed a combat awareness. She did not need to think at all and could subconsciously determine the opponent's location. This combat awareness could not be described with words, but it really existed. Most importantly, it was very accurate. At least you have some skills. Jun Zitao chuckled. He still did not put Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes. However, this is still not enough. Vigorous power erupted from Jun Zitao's body and a fiery red light appeared between his hands. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang felt the surrounding temperature suddenly rise. Fire attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately knew Jun Zitao's attribute. The fire attribute was undoubtedly an extremely strong attribute in combat. In the next moment, Jun Zitao directly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. The scorching temperature seemed to be able to burn the air. Jun Zitao waved his hands and a fireball attacked directly. Once the fireball touched the body, it would undoubtedly burn. After Xiao Sou saw Jun Zitao's method, a smile appeared on her face. It would be best to burn all of Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes. That would be interesting. She wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to die in humiliation. This was undoubtedly an excellent method. Thinking of this, Xiao Sou looked at Jun Zitao with satisfaction. Although the D family had stolen the limelight during the previous pill refining competition, it seemed that things weren't as bad as his father had thought. Although the Jun family's strength was slightly weaker than the D family's, as long as they worked together, they would still be an extremely powerful force. Bailey Hongzhuang also realized the purpose of Jun Zitao's actions. Her eyes were filled with disgust, and her face was even colder. Shameless. However, Jun Zitao did not care about Bailey Hongzhuang's insults at all. He just wanted to tease Bailey Hongzhuang. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately retreated. In order to avoid the flames, she appeared to be very flustered. Looking at this, Jun Zitao could not help but sneer. Su Minglei, I haven't seen you for a few years. I see that your combat power has greatly decreased, right? You can't even deal with this kind of strength? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.